Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be talking about the photography and graphic design basics. Thank you, Tash, for having me from Kimberly Gigas and the Binyaja Yaru for hosting this for us. I'm really excited to be sharing this content with you guys. This is very basics and we're going to cover a lot. So this is being recorded for you guys. So at any point you can come back, watch it, pause it if you need to. But I've tried to put it together in a way that there's some good information there for you all to learn from. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is, oh, that's me. Hi, I'm Diana Henderson. I'm your presenter today. I'm a professional photographer and a published author. And I also spend time working with Aboriginal women in the Kimberleys to support them in developing branding skills when starting and running their own business. So I have some business experience. I've run a co-sharing space. I have an entire branding program that I've taken many businesses through. And this is kind of what I've learned works. So I want to really share that with you in a really easy way. So here's the things we're going to be looking at. The top things today for us, we're going to be looking at photography. So some tips and tricks for better photos. We're going to be looking at branding, so the basics of visual branding, and graphic design, which are basic tools and principles. And then I thought we were going to have a question section, but we're going to, you can go ahead and email me if you have any questions that I'll be happy to answer in that format after you've watched this video. So you can always get in touch with me afterwards, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with anyone about that. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to be starting with photography. So today I'm really focusing on phone photography. So not most people, a lot of people don't even have a camera anymore outside of their phone. So, and our phones can take amazing pictures right now. It's a really great tool for you and your business. But the photos we take for our business need to be of a certain quality. Otherwise, the quality of photos then reflects on our brand and on our business. So we want our photos to look professional. We want them to have that, just that bit of extra finesse about them. And there's actually a few simple, really easy things that we can do that can take our photos that we're taking for our business from just looking a bit amateur to looking like really high quality photos that reflect the quality of your business and your brand. So the first thing that we need to understand is that when we're taking a photo, the lens is the glass that the camera looks through to see the world. And different lenses can change the way we see the world when we look through our camera. But the issue that we have when we're using our phones for photography is that we also use these cameras as phones. We're on them we're texting. And what happens is that these little lenses, if you look up here at the video, these little lenses on the back, as we're holding our phone and they're in our pocket and they're in our handbags and all the different places, and these little lenses here get touched and smudged and they get grime on them. And then we go to take our photo, and essentially it's kind of like having a cataract in your eye. It's like there's this layer of oil from our hands or lotion. There's this gunk that's like covering that lens, that gets onto that lens. And so what happens is we take our photos And they have that, and you'll see it often. It has like this like blurry sort of feel, like there's not a lot of clarity in the photo. And it's because essentially our camera is having to take the picture through that layer of muck that's on the lens. So one of the simplest things that you can do to take better pictures is simply just take your shirt, and every single time you go to take a photo is you take your shirt and you just wipe those lenses. You just give them a little wipe like that. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need to carry around a special cloth or anything like that. But if you just give the lens a little wipe with your shirt or your jeans or whatever you're wearing, just grab something, a tissue, give it a little wipe. So what I do is I always wipe the lens, just give it a little wipe down. What happens is all of a sudden, all of that muck is gone off the lens, and your camera can take a much clearer photo. So if you take a photo before cleaning your lens, take a quick one, and then immediately clean your lens and take another photo straight away. And you're gonna see that there's an immense difference in the clarity of the images that you're gonna get from it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Clean your lens because it is actually the eye of your camera. So wipe your lens down. That's photography tip number one. The other thing that we need to understand, and this is just a tiny bit technical, but in the old day, we used to use film to capture photos. But these days, our phones have a digital sensor, and the sensor is made up of tiny little squares called pixels. And you can see here, this is a zoomed in really, really close part of an image, and you can see how each pixel is a different color. And it's really important to understand that the sensor is what captures these pictures, and it's captured in these tiny little squares. So that's kind of like the brain part of your eyes or your camera. So the lens is the eyes that see the photo, and then the sensor is basically the part of the camera that captures it and turns it into these little squares that then you can turn into a picture. And this is going to become important to understand in just a minute when we talk a little bit more about why that's so important to understand that. So the second thing that we need to understand is that most people, when they go to take a picture, they pick up their camera and they look through the camera, and whatever their subject is, and this is something that everybody does, is we have the tendency that we put our subject right here in the middle of the photo. And we think that by putting them in the middle of the photo here, that it's going to be making them like front and center. The problem is that the human eye doesn't find that very visually appealing. And so in photography, we have this thing called the rule of thirds. And basically the rule of thirds is that a picture is visually more appealing if we break it into three parts. So you can see how here in this picture that I've taken, that we have all of these bushes down here are basically on this lower third. And then you can see this tree and the plant here, the tall, long plant was here on this other left third. Now, I was trying to capture these really tall, beautiful flowers. And if I had just put them here in the middle, it would have looked like a snapshot. But because I just moved it a little bit to the left, or I could have moved it a little bit to the right, either way, it gives the photo just a more balanced and visually attractive appearance. So when you're going to take your photos, instead of putting your subject in the middle, I want you to just move your subject and your lens a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. And just that one thing will automatically make your photos look a bit more professional. If you're taking a picture of like a landscape, so something like this, maybe you have a beach close by where you live or a really beautiful mountain range, anything, you know, landscapey that you might be using if maybe you have a tourism business, for example, you might be taking a lot of landscape photos. The thing is that you do not want to put that horizon line right through the middle. So you don't want to put the mountain range that you're taking a picture where it meets the sky through the middle of the photo. Or you don't want to put that point where the beach meets the sky, or sorry, the ocean meets the sky. You don't want that to be in the middle. You either want to drop it down here. So if it's a mountain photo, let's say a range, we would have the range be down here. And then this whole area up here could be the big, beautiful blue sky. Or we want to move it to the top. So maybe you want to get more of the mountain range or more of the ocean in the background, then you want to move it up here so that we only have a tiny bit of sky up here. So we're basically, what we're trying to avoid is cutting the image in half. So we don't want to cut the image in half this way with our horizon lines. And we don't want to cut the images in half this way by putting our subject in the middle. So the rule of thirds is shift to the left, shift to the right, or move it up or move it down a little, and you'll automatically have a much more visually appealing photo that looks more professional. The other thing that we need to look at is to not overexpose or underexpose our photos. So exposure is the word we use in photography that just simply means brighter or darker, okay? So a photo is overexposed if the sensor gets too much light, and the picture will look too bright and many of the details will be lost in the bright highlights of the photo. So up here we can see how we can't see the clouds or the sky at all. The sky is all white, okay? If the photo is underexposed, the sensor doesn't get enough light and the image will look too dark, and many of the details will be lost in the dark shadows. So like if we look down here in the trees, especially, and in the grass, we can see that we can't see any of the details of the leaves or any of that in there. A good exposure, a photo has good exposure if the sensor gets enough light to get the details in both the highlights and shadows. So here we have a good exposure. We can see the details up here in the sky, but we can also see the details down here in the grass. And there's a really simple way that most people don't know that you can actually, on your phone cameras, do this yourself. So I have an iPhone. You may have a different brand of phone. If you have an Android, what I'm about to show you is there's a dial that appears on the bottom and you can move that. But if you have an iPhone, let's see, when you tap the picture, a little square will appear with a sun, and you can pull that sun. If you pull it up, it'll make the picture brighter. And if you pull it down, it'll make it darker. So we'll see, sorry, there we go. So see the sun appears, So if I pull it up, it makes it brighter. And if I pull it down, it makes it darker. So that's the way that you can make a picture brighter or darker. So change that exposure to be how you want it to be. So if you have an Android phone, what happens is when you do it, you actually get a little plus and minus dial that goes this way across left to right rather than up and down. But that's something that's on all of your phone cameras. And it's a way that you can take a better photo and make sure that your picture is looking more professional, because as you can see here, this one that's overexposed doesn't look as professional of a photo as this one does down here. So that's another tip that you can use to take better photos with your phone cameras. And the last thing is, my last photography tip is that you want to crop, don't zoom. So on our cameras, when we want to take a picture far away, what most of us do is we go like this. So we'll go like this, and then we'll zoom in, right? And we'll try to get closer. So let's say you're at a conference and you're trying to take a picture of the speaker because you want to post that on your social media. And so you take a picture and you zoom in and get a picture. The problem is that zoom takes away information from the camera. The camera has to put the pieces of the picture together with less information. So it's kind of like taking a 5,000 piece jigsaw, but then only having 500 pieces to put the picture together with. So remember how we talked about our pixels with our sensor here? When we zoom, what we're doing is we're essentially cutting out a little square and then only having a few of those squares left to take the photos with. And so what happens is, it's like that jigsaw puzzle. If I only have 500 pieces of a 5,000 piece jigsaw, my camera has to kind of guess what the missing pieces are. And that's where you get those really low quality photos. But if instead you get as close as you can to taking the picture without zooming, and you take your photo and then you go to the edit function and you just crop in and get the little bit of information you want, that little bit that you're cropping has all the pieces of the puzzle. So you'll get a much better quality image. So it doesn't, like, it seems like it's counterintuitive, but if we get as close as we can without the zoom, we can get a much better photo in the end. If your camera has 2 or 3 of these little lenses on the back, when you look on your camera here, it'll say like 0.5x, 1x, 2x. If you use those ones, just those ones to zoom rather than the pinch and drag, so not this method, but if you use those extra little buttons there to crop, that is the same, like that, you won't lose that quality because it's using a different lens. So it's using, one of these lenses is for 0.5, one is for 1x, one is for 2x. So if you use those, you're not going to lose quality, but if you use the pinch and zoom, that's where you're going to lose the quality. So if you want to take better photos, crop, don't zoom. So you can see here how in this image, how I was trying to get this picture of Grayson jumping off, and but I wanted to get in closer to him. And so you can see how by just cropping in here, and then that's with it cropped versus uncropped over here, you can see that there's still a lot of quality left. And that's what you want to be doing when you're taking your photos, is to get as close as you can, take the image, and then crop on the other end. And that, if you're not sure, once you take the photo, if you're not sure how to do that, you just go to your camera roll. Let me give you an example. And you go, let's see, where's a pretty photo? So let's say, here we go. So let's say here's your photo on your camera, and all you do is you go up here to where it says edit, and you're going to hit edit. And then what will happen is down here on the bottom, you'll see the little crop thing. So you'll hit crop. And then what you can do is you can move it in and out and get whatever little detail you want. And see, and then it gets in closer. There we go. See? So that's how you do that in your phone camera, is you go to your camera settings, to your camera roll, and you hit edit, and then the crop section, the crop option is there. So that's another little phone photography tip. So to take a really great photo, you want to find good light, that so that you make sure that that's not too dark, too light. Then you want to frame your shot using the rule of thirds. Then you're going to use that little sun dial to go up and down to adjust your exposure. So use the tools in the camera to adjust the exposure so your image has good highlights and shadows. And then you take your photo. Okay, so those are a few quick little camera tips of what you can do to take better photos in your business using your phone camera. Remember to wipe your lens every time before you take your photo. You want to use the rule of thirds, so shifting left or right or up and down. You want to adjust your exposure, making sure it's not too bright, not too dark. And then if you have to get in closer, you want to crop, not zoom. And if you just do those things, you will automatically find that your photos are much, much better and are much more reflective of a really professional brand. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how do we use our photos in our branding. And so we kind of have to have good photos, good branding, so we can have good graphic design, which is what we're getting to with this webinar. So having a consistent visual brand helps you to be recognizable. So basically, when people are scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, or when they come across your business content and marketing, you want people to be able to instantly recognize that it's yours. And the way you do that is by building a consistent presence. So if you could imagine if our face, if the human face, if every day we woke up and our face was different, it would be really, really challenging because we wouldn't be able to recognize each other. But because our face kind of stays the same, except we get older, but there's qualities about us that stay the same, and that helps us to recognize each other and know each other, and to remember that, oh, we like this person and this person is safe. And in our branding, what our visual branding is kind of like our face. So if you imagine that you are changing the face of your brand every day or all the time, people aren't going to be able to recognize your business. So the way that we create a face that doesn't change is very simple. The first thing is that we use the same colors over and over and over again. I recommend for businesses to have three main colors, and that those are the three colors that you use over and over again. Now, in graphic design, we have a thing called hex codes. And I know this sounds a little technical, but you can actually use hex codes in lots of different things. You can use it in your accounting software so that your invoices all have the same colors. You can use it in Canva, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But basically, a hex code is a number that starts with a hashtag and then is made up of a combination of a mix of 6 numbers and or letters. So hex codes are what designers and printers use to identify the very specific shade and tone of a color needed. So if your branding colors were orange, yellow, and red, you could imagine how many hundreds of colors of reds there are. There's pinky red and orangey red and maroon and almost pink and almost dark black. And so your hex code says this very exact same color of red. And this is important because you don't want your face of your brand changing all the time. You want to have that consistency to it. So you want to pick your 3 colors, and then it's really important that you know what the hex codes are for those. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in a minute. So you want to have 3 colors for your brand, and you want to use those same exact 3 colors over and over and over again. And then the other thing that you can do that really starts to create that continuity is when you're taking photos for your business, which we just talked about, is you want to introduce those colors into the photo. So maybe you're taking a photo of a project that you're working on, and if you have red, this sort of red color in your photo, you could grab a coffee cup like this, and it doesn't have to, like in your graphic design, you want to use these exact colors, but in everyday life, we can't do that. But see how like this coffee cup is quite similar to red. I could, and it has a bit of the yellow in it and a bit of the orange. So I could pop this cup in my photo, and all of a sudden now my branding colors are in the photo I'm taking as well. Or I could wear an orange shirt with a red necklace if I'm going to be in the photo for my business. And now I'm wearing my branding colors, and that photo, when I'm working with my graphic design, is all going to work together because it has all the same colors in it. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. It's just about thinking about how can you introduce your branding colors into your photo? It could be through coffee cups. It could be through a journal. It could be through a thing of flowers that you picked, the clothes you're wearing. So we want to introduce our branding colors into our photos as well. The other thing is that we want to have 3 fonts. The fonts, which is just the fancy way of saying this sort of look of the words. So like these are 3 fonts here of how the type is set out. So the fonts you choose set the tone of your visual brand. You should have 2, maximum 3 fonts you use in your brand. And 1 font should be the simple font you use for writing larger blocks of text or secondary text. And then you pick 1 or maximum 2 fonts that are a little bit more showy and unique. And these fonts should reflect your brand personality. So here for this client, she has 2 fonts. She has the Yellowtail font, and then she has the Roboto condensed. And then you can see for subheaders, she just takes this font and she bolds it and does full caps for her headers. So if we look over here, see this word fonts. Now, if you imagine I wrote all of this text here in this big font, it would be really hard to read. So the thing is that we want to make sure that our fonts are readable, because if people can't read what you've written, then what's the point of writing it? So you want to make sure that your fonts are really clear and really concise and easy to read. So have a look around, find some fonts that you really like, and then choose those ones, and we use them again and again and again. And that starts giving us that recognizable face for our brand. And the other thing is your logo. Your logo should be easy to read. It should have your branding colors in it, and it should give an idea about what sort of service you offer. So the other day I was driving around town and I saw this ute and it had this logo on it. And I think the name of the business was something like ARC, and then this geometric looking logo. And that's all there was to it. And so the problem with a logo like that is I looked at the logo and it said ARC and had this geometric design, but I have no idea what his business does. Is he a construction company? Is he a guy named AR who does consulting? Is it AR Consulting? Or is he an artist? Or there was nothing about his logo that gave me any indication about who he is or what he does. So you want to make sure that your logo gives enough context that people can get even just a glimpse of an idea of what you do and what you're about. So if it's just your name and you're a consultant, that's totally okay if just your name is your logo. But then you want to make sure that when you're putting it on things like your car or like those bigger purchase marketing things, that you then put something under it, like he could have put ARC, and then under it he could put engineering and construction consultant. Well, then I would know what his business was. So in your really big marketing things that you put on your car or on your shop front windows, the sort of marketing stuff that's a bit more expensive to pay for, you want to make sure it's very clear what it is that you do and the service you offer. So again, your logo should be easy to read, use your branding colors, and give an idea about what sort of service you offer. So Laughter Skills, this is the branding that I've been using for all of this. She's a client of ours that we helped to put together her business, and she does online language learning. So she teaches people how to learn, she teaches people how to speak French, German, English, but she also does laughter yoga, and she uses that to help people incorporate what they're learning with her online. So you can see here how we pulled together her whole brand. See how in the photo we put yellow coffee cups and orange juice. She's wearing a yellow dress, an orange shirt. We've put her logo in different ways into the photos. Here's her colors, her fonts, her little bio about her. And you can see how when we pull it all together, we get this really recognizable face to her business and her brand. So if you put together all of these little bits and pieces, we start to get this face that we start to recognize. So that is the kind of very quick and simple visual branding of how you put together all of that stuff to create the face of your brand. So we're going to take better photos, and in those photos, we're going to try to incorporate some of our branding colors that we've just talked about. The other thing that you can kind of think about is you want the people who are in your photos to look like the clients that you want to attract to your business. So for example, if you are an aged care physio, okay, and that's your business, but in your photos, all you have are young, fit, 20-year-old, super athletic, supermodel sort of looking people, then there's going to be a disconnect between the people who are being attracted to your business based on your marketing and the people you actually serve. So we want to find people to put into our photos that look like the people we're trying to attract to our business. And when we bring this all together, we start getting a really recognizable brand. And then the graphic design is where we bring it all together. So I kind of like to think of the photography and the visual branding as our bricks, right? The bits and pieces that we need to have good graphic design. So you can have beautiful graphic design, but if you have really hard to read, funky, old fonts, or you have really crummy photos in your thing, no matter how beautiful we lay it all out, it's not going to look specky and pulled together and super professional, because we need all of the pieces to work together. So our photos and our visual branding, so our hex codes, our fonts, all of those things, they're what give us the building blocks to have really good graphic design. So a few tips and tricks for graphic design. This is kind of a rule for design across the board, whether it's interior design or planting plants in your garden to graphic design. And it's similar to the reason why we have the rule of thirds, and that's that odd numbers look more balanced to the eye than even numbers. So here's just a really quick example. I took this photo, or I found this photo, and this top one, when we look at it, I don't know if you can see it, but when we look at it, it looks much more balanced. It feels right. It's like a feeling that having 5 of these clips in a row feels like it looks better than just having 4. Okay, so we can even do this when you can have a go with this in your house. Even if you put, let's say you're trying to make a little corner on your bench look really beautiful, and you might put like a bowl and a little lamp and a little figurine that you have, and you put them together. When there's 3 things together, it looks nice, but if you add a 4th one in, it looks a little unbalanced. And gardeners do this in the garden. You'll notice that when somebody's laying out a really beautiful garden, they clump things together in groups of 3 or 5 or 7 or 9. Odd numbers just look more balanced to us than even numbers. So when we're laying things out on our page for graphic design, we want to have it visually broken up into an odd number. So you can see here on this how I've kind of used the rule of thirds, because over here I have all of my text. I have my photo here, and then over here I have this other little third. Okay, you can also see how we have 1, 2, 3 elements here, and we have 1, 2, 3 elements here. Okay, that's because that's what looks better to the human eye. So when you're laying out your page, try to group things into odd numbers, not even numbers. The other thing is to leave what we call white space. So you don't want to crowd the page. You want to leave space and let the main thing be the main thing. So I'm just going to move this down here. So see this photo here. See how much more visually appealing this photo is compared to this photo. It's the exact same photo. I just cropped in on this one. But see how having all of this just empty, what we call white space in graphic design, having all of this empty space here makes it look better. Or this is just a quick screenshot from my website. So again, you can see odd number, 1, 2, 3. Yes, and then you can see it goes odd this way too. There's 1, which are the little icons. Then you have your blocks of text, which are 2, and then your buttons, which are 3. Or you could almost say these, it could go 1, 2, and then this being all pink looks like a 3. Okay, so you have that, but because there's all of this white space around everything, when we look at it, our eye goes exactly where I want our eye to go. I want the eyes to go to headshots, branding, and discovery sessions. Those are the 3 main things that I want people to look at and think about when they come to this part of the website. So by leaving a lot of white space around it, it's almost like you're taking people's attention and you're like putting blinders on, and it like kind of forces them to look at the thing that you want them to look at. So when you're making a flyer, it's better to have little bits of text, a big header that catches our attention, and then something pretty, than it is to have all of the information, lots of text. It's all kind of like squeezed in there, super like scrunched up, and then nobody kind of knows where to look when they're looking at it. Okay, so in graphic design, we want to leave white space. Don't crowd the page, and it helps you therefore then give people direction of what you're trying for them to focus on. And then the last thing I just want to talk about and go through in a little bit more detail is Canva, because, you know, there's so much graphic design that we have to do in a business these days. We have to make content for our social media. We have to make flyers for our workshops. There's all of this content. If we had to hire a graphic designer to do all of that for us all of the time, then we would be out of business, because a graphic design is a really expensive person to hire. So you only want to use a graphic designer for like the really big specialized stuff like signage, or like getting your car signage done, or a book that you've written, like those sorts of things. But everything else we really should and need to do in our own business for ourselves in order to be sustainable. So why reinvent the wheel? There is a tool called Canva, and it already has great designs that you can tweak to make it your own. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And this is kind of like the practical how-to portion of this. So there's a free version of Canva. So all you have to do is go to canva.com. You can do this in any web browser. Okay. And what you do is you go to canva.com and you can create an account. Now there's a free account, and there's so much that you can do with the free account. So don't feel like, if you're brand new in your business, do not feel like you have to go to a paid subscription straight away. I want to say that a paid subscription is like $17 a month. And you may just not be there yet. And so just use the free one. I have a paid subscription because I use it all the time. But you can just use the free one. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say we need to make a post for our social media. So I can come here to social media, and you can see how down here it tells me, okay, I can do Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and these are all templates that we can use, okay? So I do a lot on Instagram, so I'll go to an Instagram post that's a square, right? And, whoops, come on. And then you'll see over here, it says templates. Now, there are probably thousands of templates that we could choose from. See all these templates? And they're already been designed by graphic designers. And so you can look at these and be like, oh, which one's gonna look best for my, like the general feel of it is gonna look best for my business. So we could say, I really liked this one. This one's a nice, easy sort of one. Perfect. So then once I've picked my template, here we'll see, but maybe your branding colors aren't these really soft colors. Maybe your I'll use mine as an example. So this bit here is in the paid, but like, let's say your branding colors are like really bright colors. So what you can do is I've just clicked on the background and I click on the color, and I can come here and remember how we talked about hex codes? Well, you can just type your hex code in right here, and then it'll automatically make your background that color. So like, for example, in my business, one of my hex codes is this one, which I keep right next to my computer, which is a dark blue. And see, now the background is automatically the exact color of my business, okay? And then I could come up here and be like, oh, well, you can barely see that little one here. So I could do another one of my hex codes for my business. And like I said, I have them printed out, my hex codes, and they just sit right next to me on my computer. And there we go. That's one of the colors for my business. So I can go in and I can change all the colors. Now, if you have the paid version, you can actually just save your hex codes right here. So you can see how then I can just go in and click and automatically change that to my branding colors. Okay, so something like that you can see. All right, so that's how you can change that. Then I can come up here and I can change the font to the font that I use in my business. Okay. So if you have the paid version, it automatically remembers it, and I can just click it just like that. And now those are my fonts, okay? And then I can change the color of the fonts again into my branding colors, or you can type in the hex codes if you don't have the paid version of it. And then lastly, what I could do is I don't have a skincare business. That's not my business. So what I could do is I'm a photographer. So I could put photographer female over here in the search. and I could look at a photo, and I could do something like this, where I could maybe use a stock photo, and I could do, you know, put my business name here, Life is Art. And then here I could change the font to photography. There we go. And I could use a stock photo, or I could just put a picture of a camera in. So something like that. Or I can upload my own photos. So I could have a photo that I've taken, and I can just drag and drop it over here, and it'll upload that photo into here, into Canva. And then I can drag and drop. And now I have an Instagram post that's immediately ready, that has my branding colors, it has my fonts, it has my photos in it, right? And you can start to see some of the projects I've done for other clients, you know, so you can, maybe you want to put a landscape photo because you're a landscape. So you can upload all of your branding photos that you already have here into your Canva, and you start to get, like, you know, this really great resource of all of your stuff. So like for me, I have all of my Life is our Instagram posts. I can save them. I can do all of that. And then when I'm happy, if I make a mistake, I can always go back. And then once I'm happy with it, all I have to do is come here to share, and then I can download it, and it'll download it straight to my computer. And there it is. And it's in my downloads then. If so, I go to my downloads. There it is. There it is, ready for me to go. Okay. And then I can just save that to my phone and put it up on my Instagram page. So that's one easy. So you can use Canva to do your social media posts. And then if I leave and I go back to the home page, you'll see that it saves everything automatically, so you don't lose anything, okay? So here's the post right there that we just made. You can see here's the presentation I made for today, and some of my other projects are all there. So you can see all of your old stuff gets saved into one place, and you can then keep all of your old content. You can go back to, and it's all saved online, so you're not using up all of your storage space on your computer as well. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing just because it's a little bit different. But what if instead you could do a presentation like I did today, or I could say maybe you need to do a flyer for your business, okay? And we can hit that. Actually, templates, and it'll come up. See, there's 68,000 templates that you can look at for flyers, but maybe you know you need it to be an A4 size flyer. So we'll search A4 flyers, and you'll see there's 353,000 templates that you can choose from for your business. Here they all are. And so instead of you having to figure out how to make a really beautiful flyer, you can find one that's going to work. So maybe you could even say flyer, maybe you're a beautician or a hairdresser. Flyer A4. And it can come up with these are designs that they reckon might be good for a hairdresser type place. So like I would look at them, here's a hair salon. And then you hit customize this template, and then you're good to go. And you can pop your things in. And if you've uploaded your logo, let's see where my logo is. So like this could be, right? So then I can just pop my logo on there if I want, right? Like that. And then again, same as before, you can come in here and then you can change your colors. Either you can save them, or if you know your hex codes, you just click the plus and you put your hex codes in there, and you can edit all of these elements. Every single one can be changed to be whatever colors your business is. So Canva is a really great tool for businesses to do graphic design. And you can do everything from presentations to proposals to social media posts, documents, any sort of graphic design things that you need to be doing in your business, infographic, even your email newsletters. They can all be done here with templates that have already been developed by really great graphic designers. So you'll know that the white space is good, it's easy to use. They'll have, on Easter, they'll have Easter ones, all the different things. So if you haven't had a go, I would really encourage you to give it a try and to go into Canva and use it as a tool. It's free, and it's a tool that's available, and all you need is a computer and your internet connection. So if you have all of these different things, you have some really good photos, you have your hex codes and your fonts, you have this great tool of Canva, and all of a sudden we can start bringing all of those things together in a way that means that you start giving the face of your business this really professional look to it. So if you have any questions, you can email them to me, or you can contact this group and they'll get in touch with me. I'm happy to answer. My email is diana@lifeisart.com.au. Or you can contact me through Instagram, and my handle there is lifeisartau, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But just as a wrap up today, the things that we talked about are, we talked about the photography, tips and tricks for better photos, the branding, the basics of visual branding, the graphic design, which were basic tools and principles. And when we do all of those things together, we get this really beautiful professional looking face to our marketing and our branding. So I really appreciate you guys letting me share with you today. It's always a pleasure, and I wish you all the best of luck in your business. And I know that with these tools, the way you present yourself is going to really start to look more and more professional. And the great thing is, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So don't get stuck on being perfect. Just go out there and give it a try. And I can't wait to see what you all are able to do with it. I hope you have a great day, and I will hopefully see you around again on these webinars another time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.